Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of Disability Landscape. I'm Charlie Bros. I'm here with my partner, Mark Knutson. Mark, what do we want to talk about?
Well, what's been happening in your life? I mean, we've been busy with,
Let's see, we did a wedding.
we did a little comedy at a
Did a
wedding.
little comedy at a wedding.
And we didn't get hooked out.
Well,
so
I
think
could
we
use
did,
the fresh tomatoes, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think we do. I think we did okay there, but
Yeah, we got some good feedback on that.
but let's get to our guest today. Now,
Yep.
our guest, you will recognize him if you are up at 4:30 in the morning.
Well, then I'm
until
out.
7. Yeah, and I'm out too. From Channel 5, I'd like to welcome Chris Egert, right? I didn't do the E.
You got it.
Egert,
You got it. Listen, I'd rather sit here and listen to your guys' comedy routine than listen to me bore people with whatever I have to say.
Well, maybe towards the end we'll give you some joy.
I'm enjoying what I've seen so far.
So now, let's start off. Be honest.
Yeah.
Have you taken a nap since the show this morning?
No. And my son, who's a senior in high school, had a football game last night because they played.
Yes, the MEA thing.
MEA
Yeah.
week.
break,
Yep.
so I think I went to bed about 11:15, and the alarm went off at 3.
Oh my
That's
God.
never fun. That's
So I'm running on fumes, but sometimes that's good, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then, for what I hear, you actually tried to golf today then, too.
Yeah, he wanted to golf. Listen, when the 17-year-old wants to hang out, I'm like, let's go. So
I've got a 24-year-old.
Yeah,
I know that
the deal. He goes,
exactly.
He goes, Dad, let's golf. And I did honestly want to take a nap, but I'm like, well, yeah, let's go. So, and it was a beautiful day outside. So
let's kind of get to the crux of the matter here.
yeah,
You're one of us. You're an
Yeah.
amputee. And
Now you are.
now you are. So we want to know kind of what participated that. What led to the leg going away?
well, my story, and I'm interested to know how what your guys' how you ended up in your situation. Mine, unlike a lot of people who have to have an amputation as a result of trauma, which a lot of times there's maybe not a choice, like you're in an accident, something like that, and you maybe don't even get a choice, or your loved one has to make the choice for you to decide to have the limb removed. I didn't really have any other choice other than to have my leg amputated. I was a basketball player when I was, ever since I was in junior high and high school and college. I ran track, I played football as well. My mom didn't want me to play football so I wouldn't get hurt, but God bless her, she was well intended.
Well, yeah, right.
But
yeah.
she picked the wrong sport to be afraid of.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't have great ankles, and so I was continually injuring my left ankle over and over and over again. And but I lived in a small town in South Dakota, and my stepdad is a basketball coach.
Whereabouts?
Armour is the name of the town.
Okay.
We by the world's only corn palace.
Oh, down
for
that
reference.
got okay.
Yeah, pheasant
My
country.
wife is from outside of Watertown, South
Okay, so
Dakota.
there you go.
Florence. Yeah.
I know Florence. So, that's just what you did. In our town, it was a tiny town, and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you did basketball. That
You
was
played the sports.
and
yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So I played over the years, and I broke my other foot twice running hurdles, which didn't help because how much time do we have?
Wait, we have,
So
As much as you need.
well, it's funny.
we're right down to 23 minutes.
It made me think of that because when I had my sound leg now, when my sound leg, I'd broken it twice. My leg that's no longer here, I was playing basketball like there's nothing wrong, and I was dunking the basketball. I was jumping around in a cast. I was doing all this stuff I probably shouldn't have.
Oh, yeah.
So probably even
in
at
a
that
cast.
point had a bad ankle anyway, and then I'm just putting that much more torque on it. And but I continued to play. I played into college for a couple of years, and just at that point I was probably a sophomore or a junior in college, and I went in, had a really severe ankle sprain, and that's I've had dozens of severe ankle sprains, but that one was a really bad one. And I went to the doctor, and he started looking me over, and he's like, your ankle already is degenerated to the probably about the level of an 80-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I was 20.
Oh, wow.
So I
And, you
guess,
had, and it was painful then?
yes, I
Okay.
couldn't, arthritic,
Oh, okay.
couldn't move it. And so for all my young adult years, I started chasing the surgery thing, thinking, well,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I started going down that route. I've worked in television for about 25 years now.
Okay.
I had a surgery in Rapid City, South Dakota, which was my first anchor job. I had a surgery or two in Omaha, Nebraska, which is where I met my wife, and I worked there.
Anchor there
What's that?
as an anchor?
She's a producer. She's behind the scenes.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
right.
I was an anchor there. She's behind the scenes.
Oh,
So,
in Omaha?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Beware of that. You know, they're going to pull your strings for the rest of your life.
listen, she can be in charge. She can produce our life. It's fine.
Right, yeah, we totally
know the
agree.
deal, right?
We know what you're, yeah.
So, and then went down to Florida for a couple years, which actually the limb didn't bother me as much because I think of the reason that a lot of people move south.
The weather.
The weather, and the arthritis wasn't as bad. I had a little bit better movement. It wasn't as painful. Now, it still wasn't really workable, but it was.
Right.
And then at that point, moved out to Seattle, and I think I probably
Wow.
had 4 surgeries in Seattle.
Wow.
Because they were preparing me for a total ankle replacement, and my ankle had kind of a turn to it, and they wanted to straighten out my calcaneus or my heel. So they basically took the heel, took it off, reattached it, put it back on there, and that was going to start prepping me for the total ankle replacement, which I would have someday. Well, that particular surgery didn't go all that well, and that was probably the worst for the recovery. I never recovered from that. I could barely walk after that. I was walking with a cane a lot of the time, and it just, you know, wasn't good. So my dad is from the Twin Cities, and my wife and I, he became ill in April of 2012, and we wanted to move back to be here to help him.
Oh, 2012,
So-
okay.
We came back here, and as fate would have it, he passed away after we were here about a month.
Oh, wow.
I don't regret it. We wanted to be here anyway.
right, exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
You know, and that month was something I'll never get back.
No, right, yep.
Right. It's the ability to be there.
Yes.
Regardless of how long it
Absolutely.
was. Yeah.
So once we kind of got that all settled, and you know, then I fall back into this thing with the foot and the leg, and I can't
Yeah.
do anything, and my kids are little, and
Oh, right.
I'm trying to keep up with them, and I'm trying to be, you know, Mr. Number One sports dad guy, and you know, it more and more painful, more and more difficult, and at one point in that process, I decided to have a total ankle replacement.
Okay.
So put the artificial joint in.
Sure.
That doesn't always work for people, and they do tell you that going in, and I think you kind of convince yourself that it's going to work.
Right, oh, yeah.
And it didn't particularly work all that great for me. And so then they went in to do a revision surgery. This would have been in 2017, I think. The summer of 2017, went to do a revision on it, and it got infected. And I don't know that it's, I'm sure it's somewhere in the fine print.
Oh, right.
But it's not something you think of that when you have an infection of an artificial joint, like they like the joint has to come out
Sure.
because that stuff will never come off of there, and that will be you'll get sick like that. And so my options at that point, I think we're like
slim and none.
We're like surgery 13 at this point.
Oh,
Geez.
I think my my
Still
option.
way behind us.
yeah.
Well, like I said, I'd much rather hear your guys' stories than
yeah.
mine.
I'm fairly surgery free, I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Well,
They put zippers in me.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
So at that point, the options on the table were basically they had to take the artificial joint out, like it's gone, and they can't put another one in. Unlike a knee or a hip,
Sure.
the
Really?
ankle is too complex of a joint, and they cannot put another total ankle replacement again. Probably something I should have read in the fine print.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so the options at that point were to take that out, put a block of
Whenever you start saying block,
polyurethane, yeah, like put a hunk of plastic in there
Okay.
for a while,
Yeah.
and to close it up for the infection to go away.
Oh, I see.
And then something, and forgive me if I get the process wrong here. I'm not.
Well,
a
that's
surgeon.
okay. We won't test it. Get Google.
And
it.
then to go, and then to go back in, and then try to use cadaver ankles,
Sure.
or some cadaver parts, and cobble something together,
Right.
sew it back up, hope it works,
Uh-huh.
go through what could have been years and years and years of surgery, and then end up having to have the amputation anyway. At that point, I was at peace with. I said I have done everything I can over the last 20 years to be able to make this work, and I'm at the end of the road here on this.
And it's that point where you go, enough's enough. Let's just do the deed.
Yeah.
And be on the road to health.
Yeah, and
But you still got to get to that mentally to that point.
Well, the
I
funny-
would imagine
I
the
guess
thought of
that's the-
losing a limb has got to be.
well, it was such a, again, like the trauma piece. I was losing that limb for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've had, and it was always pain.
All these
So it's like
surgeries and all
time
these
to get
pains.
out
So
of here.
when I finally made up my mind, I'm like, good, get rid of it. I don't want it
That's true,
anymore.
yeah.
And so then we decided to have the amputation, and I think it'll be 5 years, 5 years this year.
Okay.
Okay.
And as you guys know, there's no perfect piece of equipment or
No.
things.
No, they don't give you
It's not-
guarantees in these medical in this
No,
medical stuff.
no,
you
no,
know?
they don't. But I don't regret the decision. I feel, to some extent, my hand was forced on it because of the infection.
Yeah.
But ultimately, in my situation at that point, it was probably the right thing to do.
Now, when you were, and that's typical in media, you bounce around
Yeah.
to all these different locations, and you were anchor most of the time, correct?
Yeah.
Was it difficult for you? I mean, being in the studio, you're in the studio most of the time, but sometimes don't you like breaking news or something?
I used to be in the field quite a lot,
Oh,
actually.
right.
And,
And how did that? How did that's had
it
to
was
have been
very,
tough.
very troublesome in Seattle when I was doing some field reporting, because I was really going through a lot of like pretty intensive surgery.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
The recovery was long, and I had a cane, and
It doesn't look good on camera.
well, I
Yeah.
mean, I
Right,
can throw
right.
that aside, or
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I'm sitting at the anchor desk.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
we're
yeah.
sitting here right now. Nobody.
But they, nobody knows the wiser.
But for definitely like the field reporting, now I've moved to more of a role now where I love doing field reporting. I don't get to do as much field reporting. So I can get around okay, but if I were to become a field reporter again, I don't know, like the wintertime is not good for us folks.
No.
Like ice is not good.
No, right.
That's
That's why I always crack up, because I'll be out and about in the wintertime, and someone walking, there'll be some ice, and they'll ask me, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?" It's like they're the ones that are going to fall on their butts. This chair ain't falling.
I got all these wheels on the
Yeah,
car.
why don't you hold on to my chair and I'll help you on this ice.
I might go a little side to side, but I'm not going to fall it on my
Yeah.
face.
I mean, ice is like
Yeah,
I'm a winter guy. Like I love winter. I grew up in the Midwest, but I like winter.
Well, it's got to be
me
different now
because-
with the limb. It's
Absolutely, because
the
you
balance
can't
thing.
stop
you-
is
all
and
different.
the prosthetic can do what it can,
Right.
but it's limited.
Yeah.
And so you're just putting something down,
hoping it grips.
just hoping it grips. But anyway,
Now, the process for you, and for me, my amputation happened ages ago.
Yeah.
I mean, a lifetime ago. And yours is, at an adult age and you're going through this. What did the recovery feel like?
well, first of all, it's so funny, not funny, but you sort of think like the leg's gone, right?
Yeah.
It can't hurt you anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely found out that wasn't true, and I had
Mystery pains are real.
the
The phantom pain.
Phantom pain.
terrible, and still do 5 years later, still have quite a amount of discomfort. Do you?
It not so much anymore.
Yeah.
But it once in a while I have a nerve in my leg that thinks it's shooting
Yeah.
all the way down to the foot, and it stops, and it's like, no, that hurts. Go away.
That same, but for the immediately after the surgery, it was this pulsing shock that was just like constantly for probably 3 months
Sure.
or 4 months, and that was something I wasn't really prepared for. And again, like, not everybody gets phantom pain.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I wonder
And
what the percentage is to it.
I don't really know, and
wonder
there's
what-
not a lot of research about
Yeah.
it because
I'm
it's
not your
such
Google.
Yeah. Another thing to Google tonight.
it's such an it's kind of an unknown, and for people
Yeah.
who don't experience too, like they almost think
Yeah.
it's not real. Like, it's real.
It's very real.
It couldn't be more real. So that was hard. But once I could get past that to a certain extent, and some of that had to be medicine, and I was able to really kind of concentrate on the PT and get started on the business of getting back on getting on a prosthetic. You don't just get back on it. That's one thing that my physical therapist said. Like, first of all, you go about 6-7 weeks after the amputation.
I was going to ask you
before you can even get close to putting on.
Yeah, I
a
was going to
leg.
ask you, when
Yeah.
do they start introducing the process?
And what
'Cause it's not like right out of surgery.
No,
They just,
no.
okay, here's
well,
your
you got to
leg.
recover from a horrible
Trauma to the leg.
trauma to the leg.
Yeah.
And so once the leg's healed up enough for you to start trying to integrate into this prosthetic piece, they don't give you, they mold a leg for you. It's not your leg. I think it's called a check socket. So it's kind of like your test leg.
Oh.
And then they get you started on that. You kind of start moving along the line, progressing. First you start walking with the bars.
Oh, right.
Then maybe you graduate to one hand on the bars. You start working on balance, start doing some of these other things to get your strength back. And I suppose it was probably a good 6 months, probably more like 8, before I was kind of walking regularly.
Okay.
And this is something I'm very passionate about. I talk to people all the time. I probably get 2 or 3 emails a week from people, from our viewers who somehow found out about what the situation was, and people who are in the same situation, who are in debilitating pain, and they're thinking about getting it amputated. And one of the things,
I see. They're
Yeah.
Even before they haven't had the surgery. They've got this
and
chronic.
I've advised a lot of people too, but I advise a lot more people wanting to know how I arrived at the process, and then really
right.
what the recovery is like. And I'm very candid with people about the recovery. It's hard.
It is.
And you got to be strong. You have to be in it. You have to be mentally tough for it, because I could see it not going that way. I mean, and I know a lot of people do that. And I've talked to people, and God bless. I talked to this woman pretty early after my amputation, and I talked to her several times, and she just wanted help so badly, and she wanted to be able to get up out of her, she wanted to get up out of her chair. She wanted to be able to walk, and I was just trying to do what I could to motivate her, but physically it's hard.
For many people, it's you have that trauma and you go, I'm not going to walk again. You have to want to.
Yes.
And that's a difficult thing for people.
It is.
Now, I had my surgery back in the 60s, which is an era where surgeries weren't quite as precise.
Is that when they were using snake oil and all that? Is that when they were using snake oil and all that?
Yeah, no. But I do remember ether once or twice. But and for my procedure, and if they removed 2 legs, I was in the hospital for 16 consecutive months. And that's outrageous, honestly. And I did have prosthetics, but the prosthetics today versus the prosthetics back then, world of difference.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, there were things they were leather things strapping on, and I mean, nothing.
Yeah. Well, and for me, it entailed an entire body brace that came up to my chest to support the legs, and it's like, this is, for me, was a most uncomfortable way to move. So I said, put them in the trash, feet first, so the garbage man would be really freaked out. And the boots were still on, so it looked really good.
Well, even and back then, because we went to the same grade school, and there was always a point I always thought was kind of interesting, because I can totally understand. They want to get you out of, there is the mindset, which I can understand. Well, you got to get out of that wheelchair and walk. But sometimes the people at crutches were having such a hard time walking, they'd prefer being in the wheelchair
I
because it
definitely
was
can see
quicker.
that.
It was
Yeah.
quicker and safer to do it. Because back then, they always, one of the things I remember when I was there, they had this mindset that at our grade school, everyone had to go to therapy
Yeah.
because they had therapy in the school.
Yeah.
And for me, I have both legs. They're small. You
Yeah.
can't see. My hands are okay. So but they sent me to therapy, and the therapy was, that's when I was quite younger. They had me just get out of my wheelchair, crawling up and down steps, and I'd been doing that
At home.
so much.
Yeah,
that
right.
They just said like, "Oh, forget it." So here I thought, great, because he said, "Mark, you're not going to need any therapy." So I was like, all right, I'm going to go back to the classroom and just hang out with all my friends.
Right.
No, I'm cleaning the chalkboard and all this other stuff. So it's like, man, I got to create some therapy here and get out of the classroom, at least go back to being, you want to be with your buds.
Yeah, of course. You don't want to be sitting in a room
Right,
with
right.
a
And
therapist.
part of the reason was we always take bets to see who was going to be falling next too. But hey,
Well,
that's,
and that was the one thing that therapy did best for me.
Yeah.
Taught me how to fall.
No, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
very true.
Yeah, because I use crutches along with these prosthetics, and if I get going too fast or I hit wintertime, you hit a slick of water on a ramp, no less, that we had in the building.
Oh,
and
right.
you end up going, whoo, and it's like, okay, hands out, stop yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important. It really is.
Yeah.
because with the grade school, and you're talking about the ramp, here this is. Okay, it's a grade school where you've got young disabled kids. And I'm not lying, remember? Because in the school, there was that ramp at the other
In the
end.
back hallway.
The back hallway. It had a curve to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had a small curve. And at the curve, at the end of the curve, it was a fork. You had to go left or right.
So
You got kids just
It
learning how
doesn't
to.
seem all that safe.
Right, I know. I mean, to me, it was a challenge. Those
Yeah,
of us,
right.
Me and Charlie, who could handle our chairs, it was like, oh, hey, obstacle course. But after lunch, when they had French fries and everyone's hands are greasy, it's a pile up at the fork.
yeah. Yeah, we have an 18-chair pile up at the fork.
Right? Yeah, I
That was
always
the way
thought that
life
was kind of
was.
just funny. But sorry, when you said
No,
when you said ramp at the school, I remember.
I'm enjoying having this conversation with you guys because I think something we all have to deal with in one way or another with whatever we've got
Right,
going
and
on. Is you got I found that really the only way to kind of cope with it in a lot of ways is to just laugh about it when you can.
Right.
And so I'm so happy to
And-
see you guys and
that's
some of
what-
the jokes that were going on off camera before.
Yeah. That will stay off camera.
Humor for us is an equalizer.
Yeah.
It's a relief.
And it's
And if you're going to find people with disabilities have a tremendous sense of humor.
and where the other thing that's helpful I found too is when you first meet someone, they're afraid to say anything because they're afraid
Yes.
they're going to say something dumb or stupid. So I always try to interject humor
Yeah.
into it right away because then they're like, oh wow, they're like, I guess they are like us, so that it always helps interjecting.
For sure. I do that with little kids all the time because the prosthetic looks cool.
Right.
Right.
Right?
And
Yep.
kids are curious.
Yeah, and a lot of times little kids will be like, and
Yeah.
Right.
and I'll go. I'll be like, you want to see it, or
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll show it to them, and I'll kind of show how it works, and something I learned, and this is you guys had to put me in my right place about how to refer to wheelchair users.
Yep.
Versus saying somebody who's wheelchair
Wheelchair
bound.
bound, yep.
When I first had my prosthetic, I was referring to it as a robot leg to little kids, and I found out from the prosthetic community that's kind of frowned upon because
Oh, interesting.
you're making it seem
Oh.
fun and novel, and
Yeah.
it's cool to be part
Yeah,
of a robot. Well, no, it's not really. I mean, it's an amazing piece of machinery, but it's a medical device. It's a prosthetic. So
Yeah.
so I always try to educate too when I'm talking to little kids.
Well, and we meet kids. Mark and I have different approaches. He says it's a very important lesson. Don't talk to strangers.
Yeah, that's one of my.
That's one of his
that's one of my
famed jokes.
Yeah, one of my jokes, when kids come up to me,
Right.
I like to use it as a very educational moment because I'm idle, and
Right,
I just
right.
look at them, I say, what are you doing talking to strangers for? And usually by that time, mom grabs the kid and we're good.
Or the way I treated it, only one time, but I did treat it this way. I was in a department store and a little kid came up to me and says, where are your legs? And I go, my God, they're gone. And this child just ran to his mom.
Yeah.
It's like, he didn't know his legs were gone. Seriously, I think, they're still sending me the therapy bills for this kid.
So the first time we went on a family vacation after I had my surgery,
Oh, right,
we
yeah.
went to the beach, and as you guys know, with
right.
your equipment,
Yeah.
it's no better in this situation. And
no.
so I'm at the beach, and I didn't know how to get down to the water, so I had my kid had to kind of carry me down there, and I'm like hopping down on one leg and just fell over into the water. Anyway, that was something. But then I got back, I crawled back to shore, and I'm sitting in the sand, and I'm like, oh, this will be funny. So I buried
The one end.
The good leg.
the other leg
Oh, the other leg, yeah.
in the sand, and then did something. I don't remember what we did. A wave came up, and I popped up. Like, my leg's gone. Shark! Again,
Now,
It's
gotta
what we
laugh,
do.
right?
I mentioned this before we went on air. Charlie couldn't remember it, so this is the spot. I said I'm gonna put you on a good spot though.
Uh-oh, okay.
Now, real quick, for your morning show, you guys you do those promos. You have to talk about one another.
Yeah.
And all that. Okay. I want you to look at the camera and do a promo for like you're on our team or something. So you have to talk about us.
Okay.
Like a 30-second promo.
Okay.
Oh, this could be dangerous.
All right. Here we go.
All right, and
It's the red light if you don't remember.
That one
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that those things are shot from a different perspective, so I wasn't necessarily addressing the camera, but for you
Yeah,
guys,
right.
All right. Here's the thing about Mark and Charlie. These guys are the greatest guys in the world, and all they do is make you laugh. All day, every day, laughter. I love being around them. I could be around them maybe not 24/7. That might be a little bit too
Yeah,
much.
right.
But they're amazing guys. And boy, I wish I had the sense of humor they had. And I would love, instead of them being at this forum, I would also love to see their stand-up comedy somewhere along the line. So,
That may
was
happen.
that a good enough
That was
promo?
great.
that works for
That was
me.
on the spot. I wasn't,
I
without
know.
a teleprompter, I'm
No,
more
Yes.
right. I know. That's why.
Prompters,
That's
who
why.
gives those?
Yeah. That's why I thought we're gonna really test you.
So, Chris, it was great to have you here. We'd love to hear your story. I think it'd be helpful for the people out there as well. So, Mark, any final words?
No, this was I enjoyed it. It was very fun.
Well, for Chris Egert, Mark Knudsen, I'm Charlie Brose. You've been watching Disability Landscape. We'll see you next time.